You're listening to Built to Convert, the podcast where growth-minded marketers, founders, and creators come to level up. No hype, no guesswork, just bold insights that drive results. Let's go.
Welcome to Built to Convert, the podcast where we explore how strategy, analytics, and creativity come together to drive meaningful growth. I'm your host, Tyler Lane, founder of Session Interactive, and each episode we sit down with marketers, founders, and operators who are building real momentum inside today's most interesting companies. This episode is brought to you by Session Interactive, the performance marketing agency for brands that are serious about SEO, paid search, and analytics. If your internal team needs expert horsepower or your strategy could use sharper insights, we help B2B and SaaS brands drive measurable revenue with less guesswork. Learn more at sessioninteractive.com. All right, today we've got Jason Cormier, who is the founder of the AI Marketing Forum and the former co-founder of Room 214, one of Boulder's most respected digital agencies. With a career spanning digital strategy, social innovation, and executive coaching, Jason now helps marketers and leaders unlock the real potential of AI in their work and businesses. In this episode, we'll unpack how the marketing landscape is evolving, what it takes for the responsibility to integrate AI, and where Jason sees the greatest opportunities and risks ahead. Jason's full of amazing knowledge and insights, and I'm really glad I'm connected with him. Jason, welcome to the podcast.
Tyler, excited to be here. Thanks. That's a killer intro. I would love for you to intro me at all occasions.
I got you. I promise. And sorry, like different camera angle here today. We got some technical issues. Go figure. All good. Jason, I know I kind of teed you up there in terms of your background on Room 214, but 25 years plus, right? And so talk to me about starting that, getting it going, and then where you are now, because the evolution has been pretty impressive, and I've seen what's happening in the AI Marketing Forum, and it's super cool, the audience and the community they're building.
Yeah, I'll start by saying I do feel like luck plays a huge role. So timing is everything, right? And I feel like my business partner and happened to be my best friend, James Clark, since ninth grade. He was into PR at the time, back in like 2003. And I had a little web development firm that I had been doing, and some things that happened beyond that. But we decided to start a digital marketing agency in 2004. And that was Room 214, named after our freshman college dorm room at Colorado State University, because why the hell not, right? It made us laugh. And in terms of just the luck and the timing with that, around about 2007, when Facebook wasn't just for college kids anymore, and this new platform, Twitter, had come out. And oh, by the way, Google Analytics as a platform had only been out for 2 years at that point.
Sure.
AdWords we'd been experimenting with, when it was a nickel a click, and, all these things kind of converged. And we decided, what if we just planted our stake in the ground and said something bold and new, like, we're not just a digital marketing agency, we're a social media agency. And so that's what we did. And, in terms of luck, we wrote about that. What did it mean to be a social media agency? Social media as a term, you won't find that used prior to 2007. I dare you. Yeah. But the result of it was, for a period of about 4 or 5 years, if you typed in social media agency, no matter where you were on the planet, in Google, Yahoo, and MSN at the time, we were in the number 1 or number 2 positions in terms of search results. So you can imagine the power of that, right? It blew up. It was like practically overnight, boom. We were like a $5 million agency, and we had everybody and their mom, like the biggest brands you've ever heard of, in addition to all the startups, of course, because they're always out there too. But it was like they all typed in social media agency in Google. Yeah. And so we rode that wave for years and years and years. I can tell you more about that, but that was really where it started for me, beyond just being a web developer in the 90s.
Yeah, I love that. Super impressive stuff. Where you're at now, obviously you're no longer with Room 214. Now you've really positioned yourself and created this community here, located here in Boulder. What aspects of kind of leadership, innovation, and client growth are you taking with you now as you're kind of starting this new venture or growing this new venture?
Yeah, I mean, I think that so the pickup and the leave off from Room 214 is sold my shares in January of 2023 and thought, you know what, I'm going to go into executive coaching and I'm going to focus on chief marketing officers. These people are freaking stressed. At least that's been my, and as an agency owner, I mean, you're dealing with people that are like, they have the shortest lifespan in the C-suite. Everything's on them. It's like they're responsible for sales, but somehow they're not. Anyway, I thought, you know what, I've worked with so many CMOs. I'm going to coach and get into that. What happened was about 6 months into that, I ended up coaching a CEO. The thing was, he really didn't hire me for coaching or for like CMO work, other than he just wanted a marketing strategy. He wanted to demonstrate to investors that he had done his homework, so he wanted a pitch deck, and he'd sold a couple companies and he was formulating a new one. And so, of course I was like, oh, slam dunk, I can do this in my sleep. Well, I sent him all the documentation. I was getting ready to, have this big strategy presentation with him. And it was a life-changing moment. And he was basically like, hey, Jason, as we were starting the meeting, he's like, hey, Jason, I hope you don't mind, but I took everything that you gave me. I ran it through ChatGPT, and I realized there's probably some things you should have mentioned that you didn't. I was just like, it was a WTF moment.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of knew two things in that instant after I was feeling the heat in my face and the pit in my stomach and like, what just is happening here? But the two things were, what, I should have been the one to run my own material through ChatGPT. This is the summer of 2023, but still, I should have run it through myself, transparently told him what I did and why. And the second thing that was in my brain was that I'm going to shut down that coaching business and I'm going to focus on AI education and training, because clearly there is going to be a greater need. And so, that's a very long way of answering your question, but that led to the creation of the AI Marketing Forum, which is really centered around that education and training. And so I feel like I'm maybe missing a part of the answer to your question. So
you're not. No, I think one, have you reached back out to that client and he knows, they must know what you're doing now.
Yeah.
Has he told that story?
What's funny is, I don't use his real name when I tell that story.
Yeah.
I saw him at Denver Startup Week last year. That was the last time I saw him.
Yeah. It's just a cool, like that attribution essentially that he can, like, okay, he essentially single-handedly changed the course of your trajectory on certain things, which is pretty impressive.
He did. And, I consider that point. I call that a failure. But it was like, just yet another example of how we learn from our failures. What do you do with that information? How do you pivot? And so, yeah, that's.
Well, I think too, is you have a progressive mindset, and you have clearly some a knack with foreshadowing and the foresight in terms of your social media agency before social media was a thing. Which is just pretty impressive. And latching on to the AI component, there's legs there. It's around for the foreseeable future. Take advantage. Let's position it. So.
Yeah, there's no doubt, right? And I remember 2 years ago hearing guys like Paul Reitzer say, "Hey, these are early innings. There's so much more opportunity here." And I would say, okay, mid to early innings. It's still early innings, really it is. But,
sure. Yeah.
It's a massive wave that we can ride. It reminds me of when social media first became a thing. It reminds me of when I started a little tiny web development firm out of Santa Barbara City College, and I needed a one pager that said why you need a website. It is really the third time in my 30-year career that something has come along where it's like, oh my gosh, this is something that everybody can get in on if they choose.
Yeah. And I think you're referencing Google, right? And then in search engines, and then social media after that. And now this advent of generative AI, which is, by far. It reminds me a little bit about my mom used to tell me all the time, like, you're still so young, right? And now I'm like, she doesn't say that anymore, but it was like, it is this, I think, there is a sense of intimidation. There's a sense of that things are moving so quickly in the AI space. Am I behind? Right? Am I, what should I be doing? And I think just maintaining that level of curiosity, just getting in, right? Just testing and just remaining curious. Would that be some advice to people that you think when they, because it's not going to be early innings forever, right? Would that be some advice that you would share with people that are maybe feeling that way of like, oh God, it's changing so quickly. I don't even want to get started. I'll just wait until there's one dominant player and I'll latch onto that. What's your advice there?
Yeah, I mean, without question, I think that the interesting thing, and I'll just tell you from my own experience, once I decided, okay, I'm going to, launch this new company that's focused on AI, I immediately thought, okay, great. I've got the world is my oyster in terms of all of this knowledge that I can soak in to now go and learn AI, right? And be self-taught. And what I ran into really quickly is the problem that I refer to as the problem of too many. And this is what gets people really spun up, right? There's too many freaking YouTube tutorials about all the things you can do with AI. There's too many tools. We were just, talking before you hit the record button on this podcast. There are so many AI tools. It's ridiculous. There's too many newsletters. There's too many, guys running around out there like me trying to schlep their wares and their offers. I mean, it's just like, it's super easy to get overwhelmed. So, I got to a point where, I was buying courses, I was subscribing to all the things. And a lot of times these things just created more questions for me than they did answers. And it's like, what the heck am I supposed to do? Now imagine, a lot of the people that are listening to this podcast, they've got full-time jobs, right? It's like they're already working. This was me realizing, hey, I'm going to start something new and being overwhelmed with this stuff, right? So I think to answer your question, the lesson that I learned, and I think this is so relevant to when you're in a learning and curiosity mode in general, is once you focus on the things that are essential, that's when you can prevent the overwhelm. So for example, pick one thing. I mean, I can tell you a perfect example right now. This podcast I assume this will be published after the fact, but I've got a 4-hour ultimate ChatGPT 101 workshop happening on August 7th.
Go.
Do you know how unsexy? I kind of hate that phrase, but you know how unsexy that is right now, because there's Lovable and there's Bolt and there's, NNN, and there's all these tools out there that are so cool that everybody else wants to talk about. People are like, why do I need a formal training for ChatGPT? I've been using that for over a year. And the answer is, you've been using it like a search engine. Yep. You've been using it, 20% of its full capabilities. You haven't even gone into the settings. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So that's my point. What I've learned is that if you can just focus on what is essential, you will prevent overwhelm and you will achieve progress. And progress is 20% insights and 80% actions, right? And it's really, the trick is, by the way, this is human nature. The trick is we all get really excited about insights. You know how it is. You can go to the conference, see the great talk, and you're like, oh my God, I know the thing now. I can't wait to get back and do X, Y, and Z. And it's like, guess what? You just got a bunch of insights. That's 20% of your progress. Now you got to do something with it. And how do you go about doing that? And so, the quick story for me was I basically realized, wow, after months of trying to get educated and being overwhelmed, I realized, what? The more that I told AI about myself and about my business, the more effective it was. Number two, the more that I role played with AI and had it role play, like act like an advisor, act like a marketing, a chief marketing officer, the more effective I found that it was. And number three, the more that I just had experience sharing with other human beings about what I was doing with AI and vice versa, the more we all learned. And like, those are like 3 ingredients to keeping it essential. And I've built an entire, mutual intelligence framework around that, because it's just too easy to get spun up with this stuff and get overwhelmed. And then you go nowhere.
such great points. There's so many different directions I want to take this. Uh, it kind of reminds me of some of the early days of SEO. Well, not early days necessarily, because I wasn't early in it, so to speak, but so much blog, so many pieces of content, so many how to's and things like that. And it reminds me of where AI is at right now, because there's a ton of information, but there's not necessarily a lot of action from those people. And well, there's action from those people, but not from some other practitioners, so to speak. And that's where I kind of maintain is like, and what you're mentioning too, is just get started. Pick a tool, get in, and own it, and start shaping your own perspective. I think that's really important. And then I love, what you've been able to create with the marketing forum, obviously, and that open source knowledge and that ability to bring like-minded individuals together to share their own experiences, because we're in this together. Let's grow together. And let's be clear, there are no experts yet in this. And I think you'll be the first to admit that. And you're way more knowledgeable than I am and other people are, but we're still in the infancy. I don't know when it'll be, right? When will that timeline be where you can call yourself an AI expert? I don't know. But yeah, things are changing. And then I think I love the course, right? Being unsexy. And with ChatGPT in particular, clearly majority of people I think are frustrated with it. Don't get the output based on a simple prompt. They get frustrated, use something else. But it is funny, just the ability to just own it, take advantage of it, and make sure you're really training it correctly to get some quality output. And majority of people aren't doing that. So that's a great piece. And then I think about with you, the curriculum is probably going to change very quickly too. It's like, hey, if that's in a couple of weeks. Hey, I got the curriculum set up now, but maybe in 2 weeks it's going to change as OpenAI continues to roll out new features and functionalities.
Yeah, I mean I knew that's what I signed up for.
You did, yep.
But if you're in the community now, and Tyler, I know you've actually engaged with the free courses in there, and it's like, course, oh wow, this stuff is already dated, right?
We
and
talked
it's like,
about that. Yeah.
Yeah. And to your point, I mean, here I am, working on this ChatGPT workshop, and lo and behold, agent mode rolls out like last week. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, there's 4 more tabs now to cover under agent mode. The concept that ChatGPT is going to order a pizza for you sounds cool, but does it really happen? And what about all these warnings that I'm getting? And I mean, it's just like, now I got to cover that, which is great. I mean, hey, that keeps guys like me busy. But to your point, you could very easily just be like, I can't take it, and go focus on something else, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And I think, would you agree? Just like, again, I think we're getting back to this point of just get started and maintain that level of curiosity, pick 1 or 2 tools, start demoing certain things. One thing that we've been adapting, and I have been able to simplify to our team. I'm curious your thoughts here of like, start more on understanding like, what are the mundane or remedial tasks, and we're getting more into workflows and other things, but start there and then see what you can ideate with, and that gets in more into vibe coding and other things. But would you say that's something that you would recommend too, of like, okay, here's some use cases on how I can utilize generative AI, and that start with some of those remedial day-to-day tasks that are perhaps time consuming or maybe a bit mundane?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think there's definitely a couple ways to approach it. You could start really big picture and do some backcasting. And what I mean by that is just think in terms of, what is my personal return on investment with AI? What is it? And so the big picture of that kind of falls into 3 categories, right? It's efficiency. And by far and away, like, you can find research out there, like roughly 80% of people are focused on, how can I just focus on efficiency, right? How can I do more with less time, or, in the same amount of time? Number 2 is quality. Can I actually see better results, right? In my writing, in my video creation, my image generation, in my analysis, everything you can think of, right? So quality. 3rd is innovation. That's my favorite one, because innovation can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. I think, very simply put, it is how you do differently, how you think differently, right? And the fun thing about AI, especially if you really begin to treat it as a thought partner and not just a fancy search engine, is that it will help you innovate. It will uncover blind spots. It'll help you think of things that you've never thought of before. Hell, even using a program like Perplexity, right? So perplexity.ai, right? By the way, if there are any listeners to your podcast that are not using perplexity.ai, I won't shame them. I will just say, use it.
Do it.
Do it right away. Drop everything. Go over there and do it. The thing I was going to bring up is one of the brilliant things about it that kind of exemplifies what I'm talking about is when you ask a question to Perplexity, and by the way, you can just use that like a search engine. The coolest thing about it is it'll serve up 5 more questions that are relevant, highly relevant to the question that you initially asked. Mm-hmm. And there before you are 5 things you'll see. And I guarantee you almost every time, this is 80-20 rule, you'll see one of those 5 things. Oh, that's a great question. Actually, I didn't even think about that. I should have asked that first. Mm. Or gosh, you know what? I actually need to go down that rabbit hole, even if it's for only 5 minutes, because that is a really great question I didn't even think about. You see what I'm saying? And so it's like, you can start there, think in terms of efficiency, quality, and innovation. Now that's super high level, right? Sure. Now start to zoom in, and this gets closer to the point that you brought up. Think in terms of just what are your repetitive tasks? What are things that you have to do day in and day out? And there are a certain number of those tasks, certainly, where AI can assist. And I would say there are a number of those things where, you know what, AI, maybe not so much, right? Mm. If you can look at a job as a bundle of tasks that is attached to great decision-making and then approach AI in that manner, you're gonna be able to document some things, right? You're gonna be able to write down some steps, or, you and I in another conversation talked about using Loom. Mm-hmm. Record your step by step, because it could be really unnatural for you to think, well, how do I document these steps? What's it going to be, like 20 steps to do, exactly. Get to A to Z? That's not helpful. It's like, it might be.
I know. Yeah, no, I love that. It's wild. Just the ability and the use cases that are coming out. Broad question here, right? I think you're going to know the exact answer here. How do you see the landscape of AI in marketing specifically evolving over the next 2 to 3 years? What comes to mind for me is the inevitable AI mode with, the expansion of Google, also the monetization of it. Google is going to monetize it. You know that. LLMs or across the board need to monetize it. Monetize their presence a bit more than just some of the basic subscriptions. We know that's coming eventually, but so that's what's hot on my mind, just in terms of a couple of things. But where do you see in the broad, very broad question here?
Yeah, I mean, some of the things that come to mind for me are, I have the pleasure of being connected with a lot of marketing agencies, right, and agency owners. And because I've been in that world, I feel their joy and their pain. And, a big question, because, part of the value and like the coolness of being in the agency environment is like, you get to stay a step ahead of the people you serve, right? Ultimately, your clients look to you in part for what's new and what's next. And I think that, so what's fun about that for me is, I get to be shoulder to shoulder, with owners like yourself, Tyler, where it's like, we're going to have these conversations and talk about how can we as marketing professionals, not just stay relevant, but stay ahead, which is more important for us than just say, somebody who's working on the brand side or a corporate job in marketing. It's not that this stuff isn't as important. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying there's a sense of urgency as an agency owner and on the agency side to really be up with your game, right? Yep, and totally. So the two things that I look at and that have been consistent with a lot of the conversations I've had are, how are you using AI inside of your own organization, right, to scratch your own itch and ultimately best inform you on how to go to your clients with your own real world, scratching your own itch experience because you're going to come with a lot of fervor, right? Because that's authenticity that's coming out. And the client's like, oh yeah, well, look at, this is what this agency's doing. We should be doing that too.
Doing that, yeah.
So there's that, and that's on the internal operations side. And then there's the flip side of that coin, right? Which is, what, if anything, will you choose to position as a service or an offering for your clients that is AI powered, whatever that looks like, AI assisted, AI powered, right? And so I think that we're at this point where a lot of marketers on the agency side anyway are trying to figure that out, which is really interesting. And I think that, on the brand side, there's similar dynamics. It's not the same narrative, but there are still, like, I gave a workshop to a marketing team of a SaaS company, probably, I don't know, $10 million SaaS company, pretty recently. And they're just trying to figure out, how do we contain these AI operations inside of our own department? And there's two things, right? We need to be constantly improving our own subject matter expertise. And we need to be finding ways to feed that expertise into these AI systems so that they can work harder and better for us. That is, by the way, that is a term that I refer to as directive intelligence. Your ability to effectively direct AI to do what you want it to do with your own expert intelligence. And so that's a new and a different way of working, because now you have to take what's in here and get it into a format, into a series of processes, systems, whatever you want to call it, so that you can get to that directive intelligence, so that AI is not standing for average intelligence for you, but is actually really kicking ass for you and your organization. Sorry, it's a long answer.
Oh, I love that. I love that. It makes me think a lot of things you're saying, but I'm curious about, younger individuals that are starting companies or bullish on AI. They don't possess the experience that you and I have necessarily. You have way more experience than I do in certain things, but I do think it's like a leg up, right? That we have, if you're able to understand some of the foundational prompt engineering process and certain things and understanding workflows. And then you have this, decades of experience utilizing or conducting marketing without these tools. That therefore, I think, kind of levels you up. How do you feel about the youth in that sense, when they don't have that level of perspective and they're relying so much on the AI tools? Does that hinder their own thought process? Do you feel as though, because I don't know about you, but I'm writing less and less these days. It's a lot of audio dictation. It's a lot of light editing of email copy based on, utilizing tools like Super Whisper and others. But I'm curious in your perspective, and then we'll take it in a couple of different directions there, but what you're seeing with younger generations in particular, and how they're adopting and what they're grasping towards.
Sure. Yeah. Maybe I can speak about this somewhat easily, given that, so my oldest son is 25.
Sure.
Turns out Apple doesn't fall far from the tree. He works for a marketing agency.
Awesome.
Yeah. He is his official title, Director of Behavioral Research. And he specializes in neuromarketing. So he's a neuroscience guy, and this is the type of work where you're going to get an EEG, and you're going to get things connected to your head, and he's going to see what's happening in your subconscious as you look at brands and brand messaging and visual images, right? Yeah. So this is like cutting edge stuff, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Super cool. Well, where does AI come in with that, right? For him, by the way, and I'll just say, there's actually a video in the community that I posted the other day. Okay. That it's his stuff. You can see it. It's pretty cool. Nice. But the point is, there's another, when you think about what marketing is, I'm a huge fan of what's essential, right? I love concise definitions. One really concise definition for marketing that I love: testing. And so the reason I bring that up is because I believe, to answer your question about like what's happening with the younger generation. What are they doing? They don't really have the experience with these concepts. If they can just approach marketing as testing, then regardless of what their experience is, they will be able to adapt, I believe,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
based on the results of that testing. And ideally, they'll be coming alongside or under guys like yourself. And, they'll be able to get that shining of light on the blind spot that they have as somebody that just doesn't have that experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they'll accelerate in other ways, right? And they'll make us better because of the way that they think and can more quickly adapt to what's already inherent to their reality, whereas it's new to us.
Mm-hmm. Do you envision, Jason, back to some of the other evolution questions around, do you envision that, the next 2 to 3 years plus, that hiring people, they're going to be able to bring not only their skill sets, but are going to bring their own GPTs, their own learnings from, an OpenAI, Claude, others, and that will be a part of like requirement within their resume, because they've built this over years. The memory is really is the crucial component if we're talking about OpenAI in particular. That what you can bring to the table. Do you envision that as kind of a differentiator that you could bring? Hey, I built this out, have all these processes, have all these workflows established, utilizing various tools. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, I think that's a huge component of being able to be highly employable and desired in the future from a job perspective, right? I think just like hiring has always been, you always want to know, well, what have you done? Right. And you're always trying to distinguish, well, did you really do it? Or is this something that your team did and that you just happen to be a part of? Always a huge challenge when you're hiring, right? And sometimes you hire the wrong person and figure it out the hard way. Oh my gosh, you actually don't know how to do that. Oh, those are brutal wake-up calls that I remember.
Yeah.
But so I think, with the AI thing, it can be, I believe, a bit more direct in terms of what do you bring to the table with your experience with AI? Mm-hmm. What have you actually done? How have you actually worked with AI? We would ask questions in the interview process, things like, how do you get your updates on information relevant to the industry? And it was always frightening when a job, candidate couldn't tell us, like, I subscribed to Social Media Examiner or, whatever. It was like they didn't have any sources, like, oh, so you don't really keep up with what's going on, right? I think there's going to be there's going to be some parallel paths there in terms of, like, do you have a prompt library that you maintain? Do you have a process that you follow when you work with AI? Do you have workflows that you've developed? What do they look like? What have you learned in creating workflows? There's going to be a whole set of different questions that we need to ask to really probe what's happening here. Now, I will say, I do believe, that is one aspect of it. I also believe that there will remain the human aspect of, just like what you bring in terms of your energy, your attitude. That is, in my mind, that's irreplaceable. One thing that the piece of advice that I came across, I was on a podcast with a technical recruiter, and he was mentioning to me the challenge of hiring right now. You've got a bunch of AI generated applications, obviously.
Of course.
It's clogging the system, right? It's like LinkedIn is a freaking battleground. People are using AI to screen the AI onslaught of job applications and, submitted resumes and stuff. It's ridiculous. One thing that this guy recommended as advice to folks looking for a job is he said, put a freaking QR code on your resume. Just do it. And when people scan that, because that's different, that's innovative, right? How do you think they do differently? When they scan it, what they're going to do is they're going to go to a video of you. And you're going to be on camera, unlike 10,000 other applicants applying for the same job. And you'll be like, hey, what's up? My name's Jason Cormier. I just wanted to, provide a personal note. I am really excited about this job opportunity. I looked at this, I believe how my experience matches up. And I just hope you filled the energy here.
Yeah.
And I'd love to have a discussion and, blah, blah, blah. Right. But it's like, you're going to have to find ways to differentiate. That's one simple way to do it. And that's just about bringing out your humanity.
Yeah. It reminds me of the SaaS model. Everyone's trying to be better, but at the end of the day, it's like, who's different, right? That's really what you want to get involved with.
Core principle of category design, right? Yep. Get the book, Play Bigger. It's all about how are you ultimately different and not just better.
Jason, you're going into organizations and you're integrating AI, or you're training people up on certain things. I know this is another broad question here, but what does a successful integration look like as it relates to AI inside a marketing team specifically? I know there's a million other use cases in other departments, of course, but talk to us about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a phrase I picked up from a great consultancy out there called Conversant.
Mm-hmm.
And they say, if you can align deeply, you can act quickly and adjust often.
I love that.
And the reason I bring that up is because when you talk about marketing teams or any team for that matter, that concept of aligning deeply is really step one. And it's really easy to skip that. So what does it mean to be deeply aligned, right? Are you speaking the same language? Are you on the same page? Do you have a vision? I'm not talking about like a big company vision, EOS kind of stuff. I'm talking about like a vision specific to tackling AI. Could be a vision that's relevant for the next 4 months, right? Sure. It doesn't have to be this big thing.
This big thing, yeah.
How are people on your team involved with creating that vision, or are they not? What have you done to make sure that people are bought off on it, that they actually think you're passionate about it? How do you get everybody aligned? So, I mean, that is one thing that I love to focus on, because oftentimes if that doesn't happen, then once people start trying to act quickly and they get into stuff, they start looking over their shoulder going, hey, why are we even doing this? What is this about?
Yeah.
Right. And then what happens there is organizations, teams, and I don't care if your team is 5 people or less even, you enter what I refer to as the zone of blame and doubt. And that's where it's like, who the hell made this decision anyway? Or, that person over there is not really on board, or they're not doing what they're supposed to do. And there's really only one thing, I'll say there's one best thing that gets you out of the zone of blame and doubt. By the way, the zone of blame and doubt is natural. It happens in any big endeavor that you do as part of an organization. But the one best thing that gets you out of the zone of blame and doubt is having a vision, a vision specific to that project, for example, to that initiative. And that's all about being deeply aligned. There are other things I could talk about with that, but I'll pause. And I don't know if I've done, that's very broad. You said broadly.
No, broad. Yeah. Well, it comes back to me. It's like for those individual employees, maybe they had the vision set. At the end of the day, I think there's still going to be like, they need that, right? A crucial component, but it's like, why does it matter to me? Right. How is it going to impact my day to day? Is this going to create more work for me, Jason? Right. Maybe initially it will. But the goal is to be a strategic partner, to augment certain things, to allow you time theoretically to focus on more strategic initiatives and less on some of those mundane remedial tasks that we were mentioning before. So I think catering it to the individual is tough in certain cases, depending on the team size too. You're dealing with many different roles inside a marketing organization or a client that has a marketing team. So that's one thing too. That's just, it's tough. It's intimidating.
I think, to your point, I think it's really important for you to be able to genuinely communicate to people, look, this is about your company and this is about your career. Mm-hmm. Now your company is, the company that I started. Yeah, exactly. You're a team, but you're a teammate here. You're a coworker. You're valued here. And yeah, this is about our company, right? But it is also about your career, because although I would love for you to stay at this company forever, I recognize that you owe it to yourself to be, advancing and making progress in your own career. And this is a silver platter opportunity for you. Or, it can be, depending on however you're teeing this up for your coworkers, employees, et cetera.
Yeah, the positioning statement, you'd think that would resonate with everyone, right? Like, hey, we're about to invest in bringing a consultant like Jason or other people on, take this and run with it. We know, like, we want you to develop your career. And if you're, that's the positioning statement we take to a session, is like, we want you to adhere to your personal and professional goals. And the second that those goals don't align with what you've got going on at session, great, let's talk about where we can get you. If it's not with session, great, let's make sure you get that job elsewhere, so you can be positioned correctly. And I think that's a great statement, a great structure. Jason, amazing time here, and just an unbelievable amount of knowledge you share, and I've really enjoyed the conversations we've had. Looking forward to joining you next month in August in the in-person meeting. Where can people interact and engage with you and talk about what you got going on? And then, of course, the AI marketing forum.
Yeah. So one thing I'd recommend, just in terms of like the education and training side, is if you go to mutualintelligence.ai, you're going to see one of two things. Either you're going to see a way to register for an upcoming training, or you're going to see a way to join the email newsletter. And it's not like a normal newsletter. It only goes out when we have training updates.
Yeah.
And those training updates can be really relevant, from ChatGPT 101 to how to use Make, to how to, create on-brand, high-impact images consistently with AI. Those are a couple of the ones that we have coming up.
Sure.
So you can sign up, add yourself to the list, and be notified of those. The other thing you can do is go to the free AI marketing forum and apply to join. It is a private community. I accept or decline every applicant.
Yep.
And you can go to aimarketingforum.com and you'll see a button. But the fastest way to get there is just to go to school.com, spelled SKOOL.com/AI marketing. And you'll be able to join there.
Yeah, amazing stuff. Shout out to what you've been able to accomplish with that and your own consultancy. And it's been impressive to see. And it's a great community, amazing people. And just, I think really the core message is people want to learn, they want to grow, and they maintain that level of curiosity, which is clear and evident from what you bring to the table, Jason. Excellent talking with you. Really appreciate your time. We'll keep it going. Thanks, Jason.
Tyler, thanks so much. Thanks for the conversation.
Absolutely. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to Built to Convert. If you're serious about growth, don't just listen. Subscribe, leave a review, and follow us for new episodes that drop straight into your feed. Until next time, keep building.